a wee warm up so that you can release any tense muscles, especially if you did Joe Wicks's wonderful activation this morning and are now feeling a little bit like your muscles are contracting. Goddess pose, knees directly on top of ankles and warming up the pelvis, so big rotations like so. This is a really great way for us to release the muscles into the lower back. It releases the psoas muscles here, and it's just a wonderful way to feel like you are lubricating into the joints, the big hip joints here. So one direction and then the other. I take my arms out to the side and pull back through middle fingers. What this does is it activates the upper back muscles. So really good for your posture. Big circles. And then up and over, lateral stretch, press down through the heel so that we can really lengthen the side waist here. Drop the shoulder away from the ear. Breathe here underneath the armpits into those intercostal muscles. Opening the chest, a little bit of an upper back twist. And then the other side. Drop the shoulder, upper back twist. Opening the chest, big breaths. So the more we can extend the exhalation, the more we go into that parasympathetic nervous system. And then coming up and moving to mobilize the spine. I noticed Joe Wicks does this one too. I was like, yes, fantastic, so good. To central nervous system, the central nervous system, wake up and activate. Cool. All right, and then mobilizing the shoulders. So if you were doing some press ups and things, you might find that the shoulder girdle gets a bit stiff. Want to avoid that. And big circles with the elbows out, fingertips on the shoulders, and the other way. And then upper back mobilization. So squeeze the elbows together and open, pull the elbows back. Squeeze, exhale, inhale, open, squeeze, and open. Let your whole body be floppy. Drop the chin and mobilize through the neck. Head is heavy. Big circles and circling the shoulders as well. And just unwinding any tension that you might have created there. Good. And then one arm out in front of you. Cross it across the body. Lock it into place with the other arm. Pushing out with the extended arm. Pulling in with the crossing arm. And then take your head across to your fingers. So what this does is it creates a stretch through the neck and into the upper arm, into that shoulder area. Exhaling. Breathe in, pull the fingertips back, stretch the pectoral muscles here, lift the heart slightly, and then other way, locking this extended arm into place. You pull in with the cross arm, pushing out with the extended arm, head over towards the fingers, and then drop the shoulders down away from your ears and breathe. Long breath out. If you're using the Ujjayi breath, that ocean-like breath, which just comes through the nostrils with a slight constriction on the back of the throat, you can really lengthen the inhale and the exhale, especially the exhalation, and that draws us into the parasympathetic nervous system. So fingertips away from the body, lift the heart center. Just give your whole upper body a bit of a stretch, slight back bend, pressing down now with your feet so they're nice and stable. And then we'll just come down for a stretch into the quads. So if you were doing all those squats, which are awesome, this might be a bit sore now. So when we come into a lunge like so, what we're wanting to do is make sure knee stays pretty much on top of the ankle, so you're not overshooting like so. And you want to make sure that the back foot is pressing into the ground. When you do that, when you press the top of the back foot into the ground, it actually lengthens all the way up through these quads. So you start to get a really lovely fascial stretch underneath the skin surface as you slowly come forward all the way up, maybe even taking the hands up too. So my stretch is now literally this line of energy coming from the back foot up towards the heart center, shoulder away from ears, knee, making sure you're not doing any of this kind of funky stuff. Knee and foot are well aligned. Lifting the heart, rib cage lifts away from the pelvis. We've got to make sure we don't overarch here, and we're not also tucking and rounding through the lower back. So we're lifting rib cage away from the pelvis, stretches mainly here in the quads and here in the hip flexors. And then rocking back, love that Joe was doing this one too. Pulling back through the toes. Now one thing I would add though is don't let yourself round through the lower back. So when we're like this, what happens is we don't get any stretch here and we just put a lot of pressure through the lower back. And these are tiny little muscles around the lower spine. We don't want to put pressure into there. We want to use our glutes and our hamstrings. So instead, you know, have something nearby, have a low chair or something to hold on to for stability, and maybe a strap around your toes so you can pull them back. Hamstring lengthening happens when we lift our tails behind us. So that, you can see my back is straight, as opposed to that, I'm not getting any hamstring stretch. So really important. Toes back, squeeze them, activate the toes, get that vascular flow down through the calves, through the feet. Good. I'm going to add in a little bit of an adductor stretch as well. So inner thigh stretch, so straight on, leg out to the side. In yoga, this is gate pose. Changing a little bit by having the toes up towards the ceiling, stretching those inner thighs, and you might want to come forward, lifting the heart center behind. Same principle, behind is lifted behind you. Good. And then knees together. Drop the hips from side to side. So quite often we very quickly become tight in the hips. Well, we've been doing lots of squats and start jumps and so on and so forth, running. So we want to release that IT band, release into the hips. Now this one's good because if you take the stretch back a bit, so rather than just dropping to the side, if you take the bum back, stretch out through the opposite hand, you get a stretch into the glutes as well. So a really nice one for glutes as well as out to the side into the hips. So I'm just horseshoeing foot, so bottom to the other side, stretching into glutes on the other side. Lower back release here as well, nice. Smooth breath. And then we'll come up and we'll do the lunge on the other side. So making sure that foot is directly underneath the knee and pressing down through the back foot. As you press down through the back foot, I inch my front foot forward slightly until I feel the stretch here. Pause here and then start to come into that lunge, maybe taking the hand up, long line of energy all the way up, and then back. Let's do this dynamically a couple of times. Forward to release quads, coming into the psoas, the deep hip flexors here, coming back, hamstrings, calves. Give your hamstrings a rub, create a bit of heat in the muscle. Come forward again, maybe take the arm up, press down deeply through that back foot. So that is the activation to create this long stretch through the whole body, lifting, and then back again, remembering we want to lift our sitting bones here, tail is up, we're not rounded. So lifting, toes towards you, squeeze the toes, lift them, squeeze them. We want to create as much mobility through our feet as possible. When we do that, we get more spread out toes and we get a much better foundation for all of, well, not just yoga practice, but walking, moving through life. Good. And then let's do that inner thigh stretch on this side too. So gate poses like this, normally toes are forward, so you can definitely do some gate pose action, but for now I'm just going to bring the toe up and get a deep stretch into that inner thigh area. Give it a rub here. Very nice. Sitting bones are up, lengthening forward, tail dropping back. So I'm starting to get a little bit more weight down through the inside of the leg as I take my weight back. Fantastic. And then one of my favorite things to do is just swirl the pelvis. So big circling pelvic moves like so. Keep the shoulders soft, keep the elbows soft. This is a really nice way to unwind any kind of tightness around the lower back and the hips. And then maybe a few rounds of cat and cow. Lifting the tail on the inhale, exhaling to round. And we always want the tail to lead this. So the rounding through the upper back, the flexing through the spine, the extension, that all comes after the tail, so lifting. And maybe a downward dog. Always getting in a downward dog. So downward dog, it's mainly about lengthening the spine. So we don't worry too much about how straight the legs out. We don't want to be too forward on the arms like so. That puts pressure through the shoulders. We don't want that. We want to lift the tail back. I like to imagine there is somebody behind me with a tail like a dog, and it's being pulled back and up. So shoulders rolling away from ears. You might want to press one heel down at a time, create some length through those calf muscles, rolling over the ankles to create some mobility through those ankle joints, warming up the feet again, and there we go. That's enough. Lateral stretch, lateral stretch. Namaste. I will hopefully see you guys on the mat here in my studio. I'm back for Hatha Yoga tomorrow morning. I've got my pelvic floor and core class on Friday morning, prenatal yoga on Saturday, and then next week there's a whole schedule. I'm going to be adding in family yoga as well, and a men's yoga and de-stress. So have a look at my website www.yogamums.net and see what I can do to help you during this coronavirus lockdown, so we can all keep as strong and as healthy as we possibly can, keep our immune systems built, really boosted, and I'm also looking at a way that we can, as a community, support our nurses and what they're doing on the front line with delivering meals at the end of their shifts. So please watch this space as far as that goes. Fantastic. So I hope I see you via Zoom.